Imagine the bitter, biting cold, the deep, isolating snow of Hokkaido back in 1915. Welcome to this explainer, where we're diving into a true story that is, frankly, terrifying. A real village, real victims, and a nightmare that permanently scarred history. Let's step into the dark, freezing, and incredibly suspenseful reality of Japan over a century ago. Imagine that suffocating dread of knowing something is out there in the trees. In 1915, that nightmare became a reality in the small, totally isolated farming village of Sankebetsu. It was a remote settlement completely swallowed up by dense, snow-covered forests. The kind of place where the winter wind just cuts right to the bone. Now, the locals had actually been warned. There had been signs. But inside their heavy wooden farmhouses, surrounded by family and the warmth of a fire, they really thought they were safe from whatever predator was vanishing into the mountains like a ghost. But they were dead wrong.
Section 1. The Shadow in the Snow. The Legend of Kesagake.
Section 2. First Blood. December 9th.
This is the night the absolute horror truly began. Kesagake was the name they gave to this massive brown bear lurking just out of sight in the blinding snow. Without any warning, this monstrous force violently broke into a local farmhouse. A family was inside, completely unaware. This massive animal literally tore through the walls. The sound of splintering wood shattered the quiet night, and in the absolute chaos that followed, he took a baby.
Suddenly, the darkness was just filled with screaming. Imagine the frantic, heart-pounding panic gripping that settlement. Neighbors are grabbing flickering lanterns, their hands shaking in the bitter cold. They're rushing out into the freezing pitch-black night, boots crunching deep in the snow, desperately trying to respond to the unthinkable chaos echoing from that ruined house. But it was too late. The bear was gone. The devastating, brutal swiftness of this attack left the village in absolute, paralyzing shock. A life had been taken in a matter of seconds, and the predator had just melted right back into the snowy abyss, without a trace.
Section 3. Return to the village. 2 days later.
The nightmare wasn't over. It was escalating. The bear's behavior shifted in a way that is just terrifying. He didn't return to the scene of the first crime. Instead, he targeted a completely different house. He broke through, attacked a pregnant woman, dragged her out into the freezing forest, and killed her. The violence was escalating exponentially. This predator was operating with a brutal, calculated efficiency that completely defied natural animal behavior. 50. That is the number of armed hunters who gathered in response to the slaughter. The entire village was gripped by sheer, unadulterated panic. They knew they were being hunted, so they banded together, taking up arms, marching out into the freezing, treacherous woods. Blinded by the snow, pushing through the bitter cold, they were desperate to hunt this beast down. 50 armed men against one single animal. But they found absolutely nothing. 50 men scoured that frozen, hostile landscape and turned up completely empty-handed. The villagers were entirely helpless. They were fighting a phantom, a ghost that could strike with overwhelming force, shatter a home, take a life, and then just vanish into the mountains at will. Section 4. The Funeral Ambush. December 14th. 3 days had passed since the second attack. The village is grieving. The silence of mourning is hanging heavy in the air. And then, the unthinkable happens. He crashed a funeral for his own victims. It's a reality straight out of a horror movie. Kesagake returned to the exact same village, breached the sacred, emotional sanctuary of mourning, and attacked the very people who were crying over his previous kills. The psychological terror of that exact moment, it's almost unimaginable. Just think about the agonizingly tight compression of this timeline. 4 days of total terror. December 9th, the baby is taken. Just 2 days later, December 11th, the pregnant woman is taken. 3 days after that, December 14th, the funeral ambush. The village literally never had a single moment to catch their breath. The attacks were back-to-back, suffocating, and brutally efficient. 7 human lives lost to this single, solitary animal. 7 dead, only 3 injured. This wasn't an animal blindly swiping in defense and then running away. This was hyper-lethal intent. In just 4 days, this staggering, brutal death toll left a permanent, bloody scar on the history of Japan. Section 5. The Final Hunt. Ending the Nightmare. Section 6. A Chilling Discovery. The Autopsy. Eventually, the hunters did what they set out to do. They tracked down Kesagake in the snow and they killed him. The village was finally safe. But once the beast was dead, they needed to examine it to understand what had driven this massive brown bear to become such a relentless man-eater. And what they found during the forensic aftermath changed absolutely everything. His stomach was almost completely empty. Let that sink in for a second. After 4 days of relentless attacks, dragging victims away, slaughtering villagers, returning over and over again, he wasn't eating them. He wasn't returning out of hunger.
Experts who later analyzed this true story came to a truly terrifying conclusion. He wasn't hunting humans for food. He was eliminating a threat. This was a horrifying psychological reality. This was never about a starving animal trying to survive the bitter winter. This was a war.
He saw the entire village as an enemy. And to this day, nobody fully understands the dark motives behind his actions. Why did Kesagake fixate on Sankebetsu? Why did he wage a calculated, brutal war against those specific farmhouses? He kept coming back, driven by something far darker and far more complex than simple hunger. And the complete answer? Well, it vanished into the frozen mountains right along with him. So I leave you with this final unsettling thought. What would you have done if you were in that village? If you were trapped in the freezing snow, facing a predator that couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be found, and wasn't even hunting for food? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear how you would have handled the terror of Sankebetsu. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.